Hello guys, in this video we're gonna discuss a possible countermeasures for a malware that's designed to interact with Twitter. Now notice that I said a possible countermeasure because this is not an easy job to do, and that's because one of the following reasons. First thing you may come into your mind is to simply block Twitter, and this will definitely prevent the attack. However, what if you work for a social marketing company which it's totally or its daily based job to use Twitter? Then in this case it's not an option. Also, it's not only limited to Twitter. Imagine that the target will download an image from Instagram, and then using steganography the target will parse a hidden text or hidden command within that image. The second point you might think about that we have seen that the Twitter homepage is using HTTPS where the traffic is encrypted. And you might think that we can simply terminate the SSL and see the traffic in clear text. Okay, so let's assume that we have such a device for decryption and we can see the tweet as a clear text in the transit path. But the question is, how many resources do we need to check each single packet going back and forth from our network to Twitter, as it could be 100 of megs of data. Also, how we can distinguish between the good and the bad one. So let's say that we have a tweet saying follow this website. So how we can tell that this site is a malicious or innocent site without actively inspect that website? And overall that will add more headache in our process here. Another point to consider here, what if the tweet itself was encrypted? So instead of seeing hello world or ipconfig, the attacker could encrypt this tweet in AES and send it to the Twitter and decrypt it back once it reached the target site. Also, what the attacker can do is to mislead anyone watching the traffic. He can make the malware to parse more hundreds of Twitter pages in addition to the hacker page, and by doing that, this leads us back into resource issue which we discussed in this point here. Last but not least, the attacker can tweet another IP to create a chain of connections. If you read the report from FireEye on how the Russian malware works, then you will see that the attackers tweet a link for an image located on GitHub, so the victim will initiate a new session to GitHub, and that's what's called a chained connection. Okay, so if we think one more time on how we get infected with this malware, now this will lead us that the same countermeasures which we discussed in module number 2 are still valid in our scenario here. Thank you very much for watching.